In the last episode, I pulled out the existing board with the track on it from underneath the bed. It's currently in the lounge just next to me down here, where I am working out what I'm going to do. I've added on some extra board around the edge, but I'm currently waiting for a delivery of some isopropyl alcohol. The boxes to my left here are orders that I've got for the DCC, plus to fix one of the existing trains which wasn't running. So first things first, I'm going to open up these boxes. Okay, so here we are at my table. I've put some velvet down just to protect anything that's delicate. And I'm going to start with this small package, which should contain a new chassis and pickups for our Tornado, which just wasn't running properly. And so in here, yeah, as you can see, we've got some new pickups and a new chassis, which I shall be fitting to Tornado probably very shortly. Again, in the interests of doing this as cheap as possible, I found this was also on offer for, I believe, £21, and it is a companion to the Hornby E-Link or similar controller from Hornby. Points and accessory decoder with 4 outputs, which should allow us to run the final points. Obviously we've got 3 sets of 3 here, so that's 9. We actually plan on having, I believe it's 10, possibly 11 points. So this is my solution for getting from DC to DCC. I did say I would try and do it as cheaply as possible. However, as cheaply as possible to achieve everything I want to achieve has come to a shade under £400, which, when you consider you buy one DCC high quality loco, that's about £400. To get everything up and running for the price of one loco seems to be quite reasonable. And if I want to upgrade my control method at some point, the only thing that needs replacing will be this. And I have looked at some other methods of controlling, especially from a laptop or PC. For computer control, there are alternatives which seem better regarded than the Hornby system, let's just say, which I believe is getting a bit dated now, but it was cheap. That was £40, whereas a handheld controller, you're looking several £100s just for this piece alone. And a lot of places this is on sale for £120, so £40 for this bargain. This was also on offer. Didn't save quite so much on that, but I believe this was about £21. Each decoder here was about between £15 and £19, depending on which one it was. And I believe each pack of these was about £40 or so. So I believe it's time to fit my first DCC chip. Okay, so what we have here in front of me, as you can probably see, is, or was, Tornado. However, this loco wasn't running well, and to work out why, I had to disassemble it and discovered that in fact this particular loco had some broken pickups, which I've cut off because they got stuck in the wheel. So what I need to do with this one is remove this and fit this one. So first of all, let's just check that it's going to fit and it's the right one. And here we go, factory fresh, and all the pickups are indeed intact. And it does indeed appear to be the correct part. So I've already disassembled quite a bit, and I've also got in there and given it a good clean around there below the wheels. And these wires just seem to poke up through the body of the loco. However, they do need to be desoldered and removed up here. Okay, so here I am now. I'm sat at my desk. As you can see, I've got our Mallard sat here in front of me, and I'm now going to fit it with a decoder. So what I've done is I've put together this little cradle out of just some foam packaging that I had lying around, because I don't have one of those fancy pre-built ones, and I'll use that just to hold the loco upside down. Should fit nicely just in there. And now we can get to the underside quite nicely. Just move these decoders out of the way. So I think this one is a very straightforward one. I believe all I need to do is remove a single screw, which isn't that one. So if we pry up the coupling here, there we go. There is a screw just in here, which I'll now remove. There we go. And it should be a simple case of turning it over. I can now access this, which is the blanking plate. Just some pins connected just to make the connections without a decoder. And I've opened up one of the rails decoders here. So this one, if I line up pin 1, which is the orange, into the correct hole, that should be as simple as that for this one. And I have got some black tack or Captain tape just to hold them in place. Just a small ball of black tack here, which I will place there, and it should just hold the decoder in place. Maybe just a little bit on the other side, just for good measure. And there we go. See, that one is now nicely secured in place. There we go. And I should now just be able to put it back together. And as far as I'm aware, for this loco in particular, that is all I need to do. Lining this up upside down is not going to be easy. Could be that actually the decoder is now in the way. So let's have a look. Yeah, I think now actually that is in the way. So I'm going to move it backwards. Because on the underside of here I've just noticed there is a slanted piece. And I think it's just in the way of that. If we line it back up just over the decoder here, I think that'll give us enough room. Yep. And now should be able to pop the screw back in. And pop the coupling back on. And there we go. Simple as that. The Mallard is now a DCC loco. And so on to the next. Okay, so the next loco I'm going to do is this one. It's a Bachmann. It's 8700, as you can see. And this was out of a train set. I believe it was my son's first or second train set that he got. It's a good runner, but we're going to make it just a little bit better. I'm going to start by popping off the couplings. I believe the screws we need are just hiding underneath. There we go. If I pop these two screws out, one and two, what we should find is that the top or the base just lifts out. It's a snug fit. There we go. And now we have access to the insides, which you can see there. There isn't a lot there, but then we have the blanking plate just here. I'll just pop that one out. Pop it with the other one. Now, I believe it's good practice to remove these capacitors, but I'm going to not do that straight away. I'm going to get the locos fitted with their decoders and maybe come back and do that at another time, because I want to just check that everything's working. There isn't a lot of space inside this loco. Once the chassis is back inside its body, it will be right up against the base here. So what I'm going to do for this one, I've got the rails 8-pin direct here. that one's going to go in, and I should just be able to pop that straight in and get it back on. There we go. So I fully expect to open this one back up again at some point and maybe remove those capacitors. What I think is happening here is the wires are getting stuck. So I'm actually going to pop a little tape, and I'm just going to pop that around just to hold these wires in place so they don't snag on the body when I pop it back together. And it's just a little long, so I'm just going to carefully trim the tape. There we are, just holding it all in place. The wires kept out of the way. And I should be able to pop the body back on now without too much trouble. Still a snug fit. There we go. I can now pop the screws back in. And then we just put the couplings back on. So it's a very simple process. And there we have our second locomotive fitted with DCC. Now, the third loco I'm going to do is this one. And it's a little bit different as there's no screws involved. So what I need to do is pry this top away from the undercarriage here, and it should all come apart nicely. Okay, so for this one I'm hoping a little pull in the middle will help me just to get into it. Just, oh, there we go, it's off. So hopefully all the clips are intact, and they are. It's just held on with these clips here. And again, you can see just at this end, there's our blanking plate. Pop that one out, put it with the others. Nice little collection of those now. And again, we have the Rails Connect 8-pin decoder. So orange is number 1. We pop that in like that. And I will maybe pop a little tack on the base of that one. And I think I'm going to try and just tack it inside this hole here. Somewhere. Maybe up in the roof. Pop it in the cradle. And pop it upside down. I think if I do that, it will just keep it out of the way while I slot it back together. There's surprisingly little room above where the decoder sits. Just pop these tabs back into their locations. We're good to go. A little push in. There we go. And there we have it. That's our third loco fitted with DCC. That's not actually, again, this one may need me to revisit it. I'm not sure if you can see, but just inside there you can just see the decoder where it's sitting. So I will probably come back and try and tidy that up at some point, but not right now. Okay, so our next loco is going to be this one. I've got the Peckett, and this one is a very small locomotive, only has space inside for a 4-pin decoder. And again, I believe I've just got to pop off this. That's only this one, and I believe the 2 screws we need are this one hiding at the front and this one tucked. Don't know if you can see, but just inside here there's a screw, and that's the other one that we'll be needing. So I'll start with the front screw and the second one. And there we go, that should be all we need to remove. And a little jiggle, there we go, she's free. And as you can see, there's my screw. As you can see inside this one, it's hardly any space at all. And inside the chassis, or the body, there isn't any space to put anything, really. So this one's a little bit different. The decoder here sits on the side, and it just has this very small decoder blanking plug here, which is completely different to the others. And the decoder itself, this is the Hornby 4-pin, as it's the only 4-pin decoder I could find that had any chance. I believe it's the only decoder they say can fit within this. So it's actually not shielded like the rails ones are. It does have just the 4-pin plug here. Now, I'm going to have to line these up because they don't actually have. It does have a little tiny, actually, if you can see, there is a little arrow on that end just there. So that must be pin 1, but it's easy enough on this one to match up the colours of the loco to the colours of the decoder. So where I need the orange, red on the end, that way round, pop it in. There we go. And it does say that the decoder sits in these little grooves at the front, like that. So there we go, that is quite loose, so I'm going to put a little tape on that one. So cut a little tape off and just hold that decoder in place then over the top. And that should hold it nicely and pop it back in. Line her up. There we go. There's a little click. And pop the screws in. They are different screws. The flat-headed screw here was at the front. And the smaller, narrower but longer round-headed screw goes just down in there. And we'll pop back our coupling. There we have it. Our Peckett now has a DCC chip. Okay, the next loco we're looking at now is this little Helljan Class 7. And I don't believe I actually have to remove any screws from this one. I think it's clipped in. So that's come off. There are a few cosmetic damages to this one already just from a bit of heavy use. So this one, this piece comes off and then this piece comes off and it's all in here. So how simple. There we go. So I'll just see the wires sticking out the back here. This is the piece we need to get to. I think there are actually some screws here just holding the front on. So move that one and this one. There we go. It's off. And it's all tucked away neatly in this center cavity. Take all this tape off so we can get to it. I'll replace that with some new tape in just a moment. So somewhere in here, and this piece, there we go, she's out. This is the blanking chip in this case, not just a wire. And it's one of the 6-pin decoders for this one. So we take that piece out. And this one has got lights, so these wires coming off the front go to the lighting. Same again, some of these wires going to the back where there are some tiny LEDs just here. So I've got a 6-pin decoder here, and that is a Hornby standard 6-pin decoder. And it's got, I can see the orange wire going in here, but it is marked white for pin 1. So now I just need to determine on here which is pin 1, which is not so easy. If I look at the older decoder, pin 1 is this end. So we'll pop that in this way up. like that, and push it back down into place. I'm not sure if this will sit above or not. I'm not entirely sure. There is space for the decoder to sit there. So I think I'm going to have to do is push it down into this cab area. There's a channel for wires here. So if I slide the decoder all the way to this end, I'm hoping a new piece of tape. Let's hold that down. Pop this piece on. Like so. Slide the piece that fell out back in. Hopefully it doesn't need any glue. I may just pop a tiny piece of glue on there. I'm just going to leave this one for a minute to dry and come back to that. While I wait for the glue to dry, just holding that cab back together on the previous loco, we're going to attempt the Tornado. Now this one here, I have already replaced the pickups, but now we need to put in a decoder. Now I believe this one's also fairly simple in that all we need, I think, a screw at the front. It should free the body. Out of a little clip at the back, and here we are. So this is the internals. Again, same blanking plate, another 8-pin. I can wheel that out. Getting quite a collection of those now. And here we have another Rails 8-pin decoder. So pin number 1 is up here, and pin number 1 is there. So we line those up, push it into place, and then we'll take a look at the inside here, and this cavity just here is, I'm hoping, where we can pop the decoder chip itself to give us enough room to get it back together. Again, I may have to come back to this one to remove these capacitors. I'll see how they run. For now, hopefully that will slide, yep, nicely into the front. As much wiring out of the way as possible. Slide the body back in. Just not clipped in at the back here. That should be back in place. But there we go. Tornado DCC fitted. Okay, so I've got Thomas here. He's already disassembled. This is the inside of Thomas. I was going to just hardwire a decoder to the motor that was already in there. And then I came across this one on eBay, brand new, and it had a DCC socket. So I replaced the whole thing, which was simple. It was just the one screw here, and it slid out. And the problem is now there's a lot of wiring for a very small and fairly simple loco. I've popped in the 4-pin Hornby standard decoder. It still has this capacitor, and on this one, just because it's got so much wiring and I want to tidy it up a little, I'm going to remove this length of wire, this capacitor, and just get the wires at this end straight onto the motor. There we go. Negative wire. There we go. 1, 2. And we'll get rid of this. That's that one. There we go. That's cut down on the amount of wire and removed the capacitor, which should assist in the running. That will sit there. There we have one tidied up Thomas. Brand new motor, new decoder, and the capacitor's been removed. And time will tell how she runs. There we go. Now the next loco we have here is in pieces already as well. I've taken it apart to have a look inside, and it's the satellite diesel loco here that came out of the HM 6000 Traveller set. And I was trying to get to the capacitors on this one, because I'm going to remove these because this one also needs to be hardwired in. Melt this solder. There we go. That's the wiring off. And here we go. Well, it seems I've got another 6-pin decoder here, and so that's what I'll use. So here I've cut off the plug from the decoder, and I just need to attach these wires to the correct places on the loco. So I can now snip these off. And I'll get the motor back where it should be. And all that needs to be done now is to attach the wires to the correct locations on here. What I've done here now is I've stripped off the ends of each wire. I don't actually need 2 of them, but now I just need to attach this to the motor and connect the wires I do need to the correct terminals. Okay, so what I've done, I just had to restart the camera, but what I've just done is we've connected the right and left rail connections to the red and black, and the orange and grey to the motor. And all we need to do now is secure this in place and just wrap these connections, and we should be good.